Hi, welcome to another episode of Wikipedia Weekly. I'm your host, Andrew Lee, also known as user Fuzzheado on English Wikipedia. So welcome, folks, for this Friday before we have the Wikimedia Hackathon 2020. So I thought it'd be great to bring in our regular host and also Rachel Farrand, who has been an organizer of the hackathon in the past, but is now part of the volunteer community that is putting on this hackathon here. So for folks who are watching us, you're probably watching us on one of several channels that are out there. You are seeing this on Facebook Live, maybe, or on YouTube Live, on Periscope, Twitter, or on Twitch. So if you are on any of those platforms, we welcome you to type back and to comment, because we can actually see those comments and surface them on screen for folks like Lucas or for Ashutosh. So this is pretty cool in that we can, with this tool called Streamyard, see your comments and also type back to you as well and bring up your questions and your comments on screen. So if you're using Facebook, you need to authenticate yourself on Streamyard first. That's very simple. You can go to streamyard.com/Facebook. So by doing that, you will allow for Streamyard to show your face and your name so we know who you are. So it's very simple. Go to streamyard.com/Facebook and you will allow for your face and name to appear on the lower thirds there. So without any further delay, let me bring up our panelists for this show. First, we have Richard Nipel. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Richard Nipel, user Pharos, breaking out my I Love Q60 hat from the Wikimedia New York City chapter for this hackathon. Glad to join the first hackathon, even if it's virtual.
Excellent. And we have Jan.
Hello, Jan Einali, Wikimedians for Sustainable Development. And this hackathon, I'm going to focus on maps.
Maps, nice. And welcome for the first time, Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, nice to see you all. I work for the Wikimedia Foundation, although everything I'm saying on this podcast is exclusively in my individual personal capacity. I'm also volunteer on English Wikipedia and Wikisource, username AdoreButton.
Great. Thanks so much, Rachel. And, you know, this is one of those, yet another event within our movement that used to be in real life, but now we're doing it in a virtual way. And typically the hackathon moves from city to city around the world. This year, it was planned to be in Albania. Because of COVID-19, obviously, we've got to do it in a virtual way. And as Rachel said, this is a community-organized event. It's not anything that is too official, but it's kind of neat in that it's an interesting opportunity for the community to kind of craft a different type of event and to just experiment with different things. Rachel, tell us a little bit about how you've seen this thing develop with our crew. And while you talk, I'll bring up the list of volunteers that helped to organize this.
Oh, sure thing. So I think this just started out as a small idea where a bunch of individual volunteers were wondering about doing a hackathon, even if we couldn't all meet in person. We have a huge international community that's used to meeting a couple times every year and collaborating together. And now, you know, we have a bunch of people in isolation all around the world, not able to socialize in person, which in some cases, of course, not everyone's motivation, but in some cases keeps people motivated and connected into the movement. The in-person FaceTime can, you know, get you through a year of behind the computer screen afterwards. So yeah, like a lot of the people that you see on screen there, I guess Sebren Maislin has also been a big part of this, and he's missing from there, just have had all of their individual ideas. Other people not on the screen who are contributing but not in a facilitator role have also been doing a ton of work. You can look at the who's edited the remote hackathon page to see a little bit more about who's involved. But yeah, it's just grown and changed every day. We started off just where success of this event is we all do our own work while socializing at the same time. And I think with a lot of different people's ideas and contributions, it's kind of grown and morphed into a more structured type of event, and I'm really excited to see how it will work. I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that this event will continue to change during the event because it's run completely by the participants of the event. So as soon as somebody has an idea, there's nothing stopping them from implementing it at that moment and other people jumping on board. So I'm really excited to see how the weekend goes.
Yeah, that's right. And I think if we just even look at some of the proposed sessions there, you'll see that it's not quite like the Wikipedia editathons that we had before. So again, let's start at the top here. It's going to be Saturday and Sunday. And again, you can start now. That's kind of why we're doing it now, is why not have a warm-up day where you can learn more about it and start to think about things you could try doing. One thing that is important to note, that there is a code of conduct for technical spaces, which might be new to a lot of folks. This means that you're kind of used to a code of conduct on Wiki, but when it comes to other places that people are interacting, whether it is on Fabricator, which we can talk about in a little bit, whether it's on Telegram channels, please be aware that there are codes of conduct to adhere to there. So I think the main thing that people should know about, and you can see it streaming hopefully on the video below, is the main place to kind of contact folks is on the main Telegram channel, right, Rachel? That is the main place to go to just to chat. And tell us a little bit about how this is bridged to IRC, right? Is there a relationship there?
Yeah, so last year, I believe it was, we have bridged IRC to Telegram. So now when you're speaking in WM Hack on the Freenode IRC channel, it automatically shows up in the Telegram channel and vice versa. That's because we started to see a split of different users who really prefer using IRC and really prefer using Telegram. And instead of forcing one solution, we try to accommodate everybody. So yeah, Telegram should be good. And if you find that the main Telegram channel is getting a little bit too busy for you, you're very welcome to create another sub-Telegram channel for specific topics, or broadcast one that already exists, because every single thing doesn't have to be in the main Telegram channel. However, it's probably great to keep everybody up to date, especially when there's any points for additional collaboration, share what you've done, or get other people involved.
Right. And I don't know what's going to happen when I click on this. Okay. So you'll probably see that this URL, which is hidden here, is just t.me. So t.me/WMHack. It's also scrolling at the bottom of the video there. So it's a good time a day before everything starts to just get into that channel, get familiar with Telegram. For folks who have never used Telegram before, it has become in the last few years one of the main channels for any type of in real life event for people to just kind of, find out what's going on socially or logistically. So Telegram is a channel that's gotten more popular. And the nice thing about it versus IRC is that you can actually scroll back and kind of catch up on messages, where I think IRC has been a little bit tougher to do that depending on the channels that are out there.
Yeah,
so that is, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. Fun fact, the reason that we use Telegram, I believe, is that Cornelius originally implemented it for Wikimedia Conference, and then Claudia from Wikimedia Austria was the first one to bring it into our hackathon space when Wikimedia Austria organized, I forget which year, the Wikimedia Hackathon. So ever since then, we've been using it, and it's just made it so much easier for newcomers to join in.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it runs on mobile nicely. It runs on a desktop app. It runs on the web, and it's a little bit more modern than IRC, but it still bridges both worlds, which is kind of nice. So I think that if you want to remember anything about the hackathon, is just use that as the main hub, the Telegram or the IRC channel, and then we'll be posting updates or ways to split off into different things from there. So again, for folks watching, feel free to comment on your platform of choice, and we can see those comments and we can bring up some of those on screen if you have any questions or ideas on what to do. So let's go scroll down a little bit more in the document here. Fabricator. So Fabricator is, kind of the main place where folks will be tracking projects. You don't have to, but this is where, if you want kind of have long-term impact, Fabricator is the place to do this. So Rachel, kind of tell us a little bit about Fabricator and what its role has been in these projects.
Sure. So the best part about Fabricator is that it's a completely transparent, open kind of project management tool. So like, even if it looks very technical, it's not. I've tracked all sorts of projects that have nothing to do with technical topics on Fabricator. The important part is that everybody can follow in real time what's happening with the project, and everybody can collaborate. So it makes sure that no decisions and no discussions are happening in private Google Docs or wherever. And if someone's interested in something, maybe you never know who's lurking on a Fabricator ticket, and then comes along a couple weeks later with a comment that changes the whole direction and scope of the project because they've been able to gain all of the context about what you're doing. So the reason that we put our projects on Fabricator before the hackathon starts is so that people who don't know what to work on can come along and kind of browse through some of the things they might be able to get involved in, or just kind of get an idea of what types of things people might be working on. And then the reason we use it during the hackathon is so people can update and follow along and jump into projects during the hackathon. And then, afterwards, we have a little bit better documentation of what happened. So this is just really in line with our open source, transparent working style in Wikimedia. So I definitely encourage you to try to add things to Fabricator so that everybody can be involved. And if you don't know how, if it's a little intimidating for you, anybody in the Telegram channel can help, or just like contact one of the facilitators. I think people would be really happy to help get you started.
Right. And we have a question on YouTube, which is a good one. Do we have any previous year's ideas, or what has the output of previous hackathons looked like, even though we don't have to adhere to those same type of expectations this year, but maybe gives people an idea of what the range of hackathon projects have been? Maybe
some of you can say, what stands out in your mind as the most interesting hackathon project that you've seen, because maybe if you have or haven't participated, something that jumped out at you that came from the hackathons.
Yeah, people who are watching this, if you're experienced, I think Lucas, you're very experienced. Type into the chat or anything else, like either pointers or just ideas and projects. Jan, you and I have used some outputs from the hackathon. What are some things that you remember as useful things that people hack together in like a day or two, and you're like, wow, that's great, and we use it today?
So one of the things that came to mind is the thing that you and I showcased previously, Andrew, and that was the transfer images from Mapillary into Commons. That was actually done during the Washington, was it Washington Hackathon? Well, no, it was the Mexico Hackathon. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So a hackathon a couple of years back. And it's sort of stringing together existing tools, and which is usually what you can do in a very short time, and which is also a great thing to do during hackathons, because you usually have access to the people who made those tools, so you can get quick insights in, okay, if I want to call for this, how do I do it in most effective way? And that's the good part about hackathons, is like the social connections that you might not get like on any day otherwise.
Right, exactly. So yeah, so I think a lot of the hackathon tools you'll see are just kind of connecting things, or kind of getting things from one well-known place to another well-known place. So those are really good candidates for hackathon things. So as Jan said, we did an episode about Mapillary, which has images that are Creative Commons, and you're like, wow, it'd be great to have stuff from there in Commons, but not have to hand do all that. Is there a tool that does that? So I think a lot of hackathon tools wind up being kind of like a, oh yeah, if we made that one little tool, you suddenly make life easier for thousands of people because that little utility, right?
Yeah. Vera has one to share here.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Vera built the identifier input.js gadget last hackathon, and it lets you quickly put an identifier on Wikidata.
Put an identifier in Wikidata. Oh, nice. So a lot of gadgets, things. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting you. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know if you see my link in the chat there, but for every hackathon that we do, we try to summarize the projects that were done in a way that's understandable by everyone, even non-technical people. So I don't know, do you see that link, Andrew? Maybe you can just quickly scroll through some of the things to give people an example of what was done even just last year.
Oh, yeah, the outcomes, right.
Passwordless login, secure logout, MediaWiki apps gallery, voice-assisted editing for Wikidata, WikiChat, Wiki documentaries, ISBN scanner.
Right. Yeah, let's go through this real quick and see. Completed projects right there, and then they have a list to the link to the fabricator right there. That's right.
And I just want to chime in what you said, Rachel, also about the fabricator is it's really the feeling you get from the wiki. It's like think of it like it's a wiki environment but purposed for software development. Like it's awesome.
Right. And then yeah, one I think that maybe some folks are familiar with out there is this one, which is the integrality. So this is what a lot of GLAM organizations are using now, which is pretty cool. And this basically shows you, the completeness of Wikidata items in a set. So I know I use it all the time. Richard and I work with the Met Museums. We can show all the Met folks, how complete the properties are for paintings or statues and things like that. And, I believe that tool was made by Jean, basically using some code from Martin Dammers, who's on our facilitators team. And Martin had made it just for one thing, and Jan-Fred had taken that and just generalized it for anything. So that's another good candidate as well, is you don't have to build something from scratch. You take something that someone's made and said, oh, that's interesting for that one case, but let me try to turn it into a more generically useful tool. So that's another good candidate as well. Anything else that stands out to you? I think one that was really neat is just adapting existing open source tools into the Wikimedia universe. So I know that Jan and I had for many years done a lot of photosphere pictures, which are really nice to do 360 spins, but we're like, I really can't view these in the Wikimedia universe. I can upload them to Commons, but I really can't view them. So 1 year, Jan, you know better than I, someone had made a viewer for that, right?
I think it was Daniel Schwen who's ported some other open source viewer into the. I might be wrong there, but I think it was him who.
I think you're right.
Made it put it on a WMF Labs so that we all can enjoy it.
Right, and it's I don't think it's really evolved beyond that. So since then,
no.
It's very obscure. So I think I found an example. It's kind of hard to find an example because they're not well supported in our community. So there's not that many photospheres that are embedded in Wikidata or anything. So this is an example of a panorama. And if you scroll down here, we actually have this 360 panoramic viewer. I hope it works because I know it was not always working perfectly. But look at that. That's really cool, right? So this was put together in one weekend by Daniel Schwen by just taking an open source software that does this already, but allowing for it to be what's it doing? That's pretty cool. I didn't even know about that function. It's like auto scrolling. So taking that free piece of software but allowing it to be invoked by just putting in a template like, where is it? 360 right
Pano
there.
360.
Yeah, so Pano 360 somewhere in there. I can't even find it where it is now. But you just put one template in there and then suddenly you can browse that image in 360 mode. So that's another good candidate for like a hackathon project. It's like, I'm not doing much more than taking this piece of software that already exists and providing a way to embed it in the Wikimedia universe. And that's really useful.
And something that we do lack right now is a way to do that with 360 movies. So there are a couple of them uploaded to Commons, but there's no way to actually watch them.
Exactly. So those are some interesting types of projects in the past. And, and just to assure folks out there, you don't have to know how to code. You don't even have to do all these things. You can do documentation, you can do translation, you can do adding statements to Wikidata. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about how we've always had this kind of uneasy relationship with the term hackathon, because it always seems like it's a very high bar for people to participate, but we actually welcome folks who are trying different things beyond just coding, right?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, I'm going to be proofreading Wikisource during the event and just sitting around waiting for people who need different logistics help, and then, participating in some of the social events. So especially for this group within the facilitators team, we've kind of discussed, and we want to be as open and inclusive as we can. So anybody can join and socialize with us. And just get your work, your general volunteering Wikimedia work done. And who knows, maybe you'll find other collaborators on that as well. So yes, you definitely do not have to be technical to be involved. And yeah, it looks like Andrew is narrowing in a little bit more on the social events, which is great. So I guess to start, we're really experimenting with some social events unrelated to hackathon. Leah and I have been kind of working on a little project around different ways to implement social time during remote conferences. And so we are experimenting with all sorts of different things that we've thought about. One of them that Andrew's highlighting right now is the streaming dog walk, which is something that came up naturally when we were doing a test social event, and Andrew just started streaming his dog walk, and everybody just felt this like sense of being outside and being a part of his experience, and it was really fun. So now we're going to kind of try to take that to the next level. Do you want to talk a little more about that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think this is a great example of how things that seem frivolous and just random can actually spur really interesting ideas. So I think the funny thing was it wasn't by chance, it was by necessity. My dog was going nuts, and I'm like, well, I got this meeting I need to be on, so let me just walk the dog while I'm on the meeting. And everyone just because of COVID-19, everyone's been indoors in front of their computers and video conferencing, and it was just like, wait a minute, you picked up your camera and you're walking outside for a meeting? That's a really cool idea. So we said, well, why don't we just have a whole session at the hackathon where people walk around, as long as you're allowed. We don't want you to violate any local guidelines. Just walk around your environment or show us your pets or anything, and just kind of change the context of how we interact with each other, which I think is kind of interesting. Like, we've never ever done kind of a, show me your natural environment and conference globally at the same time. That's kind of a weird thing, but you never know what it spawns, because we actually have had some projects dealing with, if you're out there, could you take a picture of your local flora and fauna, and we can upload that to Commons, right? So there's also another group of folks who use iNaturalist as an app, who take pictures and then move those pictures into Wikimedia Commons. And then that kind of spurred that idea of like, oh, if we're doing nature walks, why don't we do a demo of iNaturalist, and you can take pictures of your plants and your animals and show you how to move those into Commons. So yeah, I think the social events are kind of cool, because half of the experience of the in real life hackathons was the social part, right, Rachel? It's not just sitting and hacking. It's this random putting together of ideas.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, everybody likes to, try to question and measure why in-person events are important. And I can only speak from personal experience, but, when you talk to Wikimedians, a lot of times, a lot of what keeps them in the movement or connects them into other projects is the fact that they were able to sit around a meal discussing that idea and got really excited about it. And so many things have grown out of this in-person interaction. And we don't want to lose that as we go into virtual events. And there isn't a really clear roadmap around how to, create social time in a structured, safe, but not too structured way. So that's why, and also I guess I would say that what works for other communities doesn't always necessarily work for Wikimedia. We often have to reinvent the wheel in everything that we do, just to be really specific for our communities, because we don't want to impose anything. We want to actually give people what they want and what they would actually use. So that's why we're kind of starting small scale and from scratch here, and experimenting with a lot of these things. And And, if they go well, that's great, and we'll keep doing them. And if they don't go well, then we know and we'll document it, and no one else will have to make that mistake again. So yeah, but for the streaming walks, so far we have Andrew doing a dog walk, and I'll do a little desert ramble. I live in the high desert right now, and Leia is going to take us on a tour of a Berlin park, but everybody is welcome either to stream during those specific time frames or just, add another session and stream something that you think might be interesting to people in the rest of the world. Doesn't matter, where you live or how interesting you think it might be. I think a lot of people are, all of us were fascinated by Andrew's neighborhood, even though he thinks it's, just like daily usual.
Yeah, I found it fascinating. People were interested in the mundane of what I do. So. Richard, Jan, any other interesting ideas for either social events or kind of random kind of things we can do collaboratively around the world on video?
I do want to share, so the New York chapter, it's not exactly a social event, but it's a sort of a participatory event. We're hosting a symposium on COVID-19 in Wikipedia. And hopefully we want to encourage people to participate, ask questions, and sorry, let me just share the tab. And it's going to be 6 p.m. New York time. I think that's midnight Berlin time, and so whatever it is UTC on Saturday. And we have a bunch of leading Wikimedians who have been active in the COVID-19 response. So Netha Hussein, Jason Moore, Thais Marata, and Lane Raspberry, and looking at different aspects of the Wikimedia community response to COVID-19, and hopefully some people at the hackathon can participate. It's a bit late for Europeans, but if you'd like to maybe get some ideas, look at how people have been using the different Wikimedia platforms, how people have been creating tables, been creating stuff on Wikidata, looking at translating articles across different languages, and maybe you can get some inspiration of tools that might be useful for some of these tasks. So that's on Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I think like the entire weekend is going to be a social event. So you just have to decide, do you want to be hyper social or just regular social? So you can choose.
Or be use social, like bees and ants.
Right. Yeah, someone had mentioned here, if you're allowed to in your locale, and things are starting to open up in some areas, walk around a gallery, library, art museum. Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean,
that's a great idea.
The closest we have in my community is a cemetery, which is becoming dangerously popular. It's the Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York. They had to have some warnings about too much lack of social distancing there. But if things work out, I could walk there. It's pretty nice. It's all cemetery.
That's totally fine. And I think I've already said this, but just to reiterate, this really is a virtual event for and by community members. And so the thing that we're trying really hard as the facilitation group to really communicate is, if there's anything that you want to accomplish, you should do it. Implement it. Show us your Rubik's Cubes performance, or ask someone, right now's the time for performances. Here's the video link. Take us around your gallery, library, art museum. Don't wait for, us to put the structure in place. And the facilitating team is here to help you if you don't know how to put these things into practice. But Lucas, I really hope you will walk over to the park and start juggling, because I would certainly join in on that call and enjoy it. So, that's what I mean is, don't wait for people to tell you how this event is going to go. Figure out what you need to feel like you want to participate, or that you can accomplish whatever you need to accomplish, and do it. As long as you're following the friendly space policy and code of conduct for technical spaces, we're not putting any rules in place for this event. And that's also in terms of the amount of time you want to participate. You can, stay glued to your computer without sleeping, drinking coffee, or you can come in, drop in for 1 hour, and that's your only participation. So we're really just keeping this open, and this is just a structure and a framework for you to accomplish whatever you need to accomplish.
And I would love to see people try out new ideas of how to actually also do not only social things, but also how can we collaborate in actually doing stuff in the hackathon, because we need to learn, and this is a perfect time and space to do it.
Yeah, maybe, Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit more about the efforts that the, oh, sorry, I can't remember what it stands for, but the CROW Remote Conference Group is working on? Because I think these things tie in really closely, and a lot of the efforts that we are doing with this remote hackathon have been inspired or come directly from that group. So just making sure that people know that there's a big community effort going on already. I think there's a couple of hundred people collaborating to jointly discuss ideas about remote conferences.
That's true. And so Richard, Jan, and myself are also part of that effort. So the CROW is the acronym that just stands for Conference Remote Options for Wikimedians. And that's Richard's great acronym that he created there. And the idea is that we're so distributed now, and we can't meet up in real life, that we're trying all different types of platforms for this thing. So if you go to the meta page for this, which unfortunately is not called CROW because that's a little bit too English-centric for an acronym, but it is called Wiki Project Remote Event Participation, you'll see that we have a bunch of things that we've been trying out, including, I think some folks may be aware of that there's a new Jitsi server. So Jitsi is kind of probably the most popular and easiest to use open source video conferencing solution that's out there. If you've ever gone to meet.jit.si, you might have used this, but that's a little bit limited because like the whole world is hammering that server. So if you really want to control your own fate, you would install your own Jitsi server. And we do have it now on meet.wmcloud.org, but we're still kind of in testing phase, and you have to authenticate for it. But this page here is to try to just document some of the best options that we've looked into, whether it is Google Hangouts or Zoom or different things. So I encourage folks to take a look at it if you're interested. It's Wiki Project Remote Event Participation on Meta. And you're welcome to use any and all of these options if you're proposing something for the hackathon. You'll notice if you go back to the hackathon page, it is a real mishmash of stuff. It is, some people are using Hangouts, some people are using YouTube live streams. So there's a whole bunch of different things that people are using for rendezvousing. But if you just start the Telegram group, then you can, let other people know how you plan to do some kind of show programming or training during the hackathon.
And I would say also that we're very purposefully not trying to add any restrictions around what kind of video programs are used at the hackathon, because this is a chance to experiment. So just because you see a lot of Google Hangout links, it doesn't mean that you need to use one, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't experiment, and it doesn't mean that it's not okay if you tried something and it's not working, that you can, midway through a session or meetup, switch to something else. And in fact, that would be really helpful for us to know what you tried and how it went. So yeah, that's just one thing.
I'll say that Amir Sarabdani put up the Jitsi instance on the Wikimedia Cloud servers, and that's really neat. And we might want to think about other things, like, so for we've been talking about, should we try something like Big Blue Button? Should we try things with text, like something like Riot IM or Mattermost? Could those have a space in the cloud? Maybe there's a better way to integrate Jitsi into some of the more Wikimedia projects. Can we show it on a meta page, a live Jitsi talk? Those are potential projects that people might want to work on.
That's right. And that's something that, the Jitsi is so new in our installation. Play with it and let us know if you find it useful for anything. And what are some other things that we have in store here? Yeah, there's some proposals for sessions and training. We don't have a definite time or anything for those things, but please put in ideas into the Telegram channel if you want to do something like, what are the most popular gadgets that you use in Wikidata, or people who want to kind of gain some more skill in using a tool like quick statements. So propose those types of things. We got lots of experts in the Telegram channel that can just say, oh yeah, I'm happy to demo that for half an hour at 2 o'clock or something like that. And I think you'll find that's a nice way to try to request skills training or skill share, and people will step up for that. Let's see, anything else we can show here? Sunday, we're toying with the idea, right, Rachel, of some kind of wrap up. Like we might have an optional thing where you can jump into a room and just kind of show what you've done by the end of the weekend, whether it's a a little demo, or you translated something, or you've improved Wikidata items, right?
Yeah, I think that was something actually Richard was just discussing before we went live, but using, maybe it was even this Streamyard to do it. Is that what you were saying, Richard?
Yeah, I think we'd love to do that if people want to join. And we can join, and we can have like 6 people appear on screen here at the same time, and 10 people can be in the waiting room. So if there's a line of people who want to share their projects, we'd love to have them.
It would be very interesting to try to organize people in a line perhaps from Telegram into here and then on screen.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and they can get like you can get a hat at each new place.
Right. That's an interesting idea. I mean, we're hacking StreamYard for our uses at the same time, right? As Richard said, we can have a parade of people coming through here to show up on the screen. We don't have to just have 4 guests for an hour, but trying to organize who's in that line is going to be really interesting. But hey, we're willing to experiment with that. Yeah. So any other questions from the audience or the chatters out there? I think the most important thing is the Telegram channel as the main point of contact. Feel free to ask any questions you have there. The short link that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen there is to the main page that we're seeing right here, which is the Remote Hackathon page. And then the Fabricator board, which I think we can probably, maybe Rachel, what we'll do is after this, we'll put like 2 big links at the top here, like the Telegram and the Fabricator board at the very top, just to say, if you don't have time to read everything, go to those 2 things. And the Fabricator board, hopefully will start to fill up with stuff that people are working on, which I can't even find easily. Let me go here. Oh, here we are. It's hidden right there. And, this is pretty cool because you might find people are working on something that's related to your interest, or might be working on a solution to something that you've had a question about for a long time.
Yeah, and I've kind of been thinking about, we're saying anyone can participate in any way that they want, and maybe we have kind of like 3 rules of participation. And the first one we've already covered, which is friendly space policy and code of conduct. That's non-negotiable, really, like take it seriously. The second is, I think I covered it a little bit as well, like don't wait for things to be implemented, do it yourself. The main pillar of this remote hackathon is every participant is helping other participants. So jump in and help. And if you find yourself with a complaint, then try to fix that complaint. And then the final one is that the only request that the facilitating team has for you is to please provide your feedback. So we're not going to be running a feedback survey just because we don't have the emails of the attendees, and it takes a lot of work on the back end. But we have a feedback page already linked on the MediaWiki Remote Hackathon page, and we really, really, really would appreciate any and all feedback, no matter how little or big or small your feedback is. And that's because the reason that we're doing all this experimentation is so that the Wikimedia community can be stronger and do better remote events in the future, or even back when we're allowed to meet in person again. Like, we should probably add remote components to those events and get better at that as well. So without the feedback, we won't know how to improve. And so I really, 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 that's my only request, to provide the feedback.
Right. Very cool. And maybe it makes sense to just show people really quick, for folks who are not familiar with Fabricator. It's as easy as from this workboard of hitting the pencil icon and creating a new task. So in fact, this, look, I've been a developer for many years. This still flummoxes me. Like, how do I interact with Fabricator? It's this gigantic beast with lots of features. So I find it's just useful just to say, make a new task, right? And you can basically say, let's say, for example, here's a project I might want to work on, is create quick statements out of Wikidata query 3-column layout, or something like that, right? That's a tool that someone has asked me about before. So, take the output of a Sparkle query that is in, this is very geeky, but subject, predicate, object columns, and turn them into quick statements. It's very easy to do, but no one's ever made a thing like that. You can also add subscribers to it. So maybe I can ask Jan.
My last name.
Oh, there we go. So I can add people to it right away, right? I always found this pretty cool because, do I have to put Pharaohs? Because you can kind of force people onto your project this way, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's my favorite part.
I always thought that was very big imposition, but I guess it's good to be bold. So
I don't know. Yeah.
So now I have here, right, and then I can also add more tags to whatever. But this is now on the workboard, and now people can kind of see that. Oh, I'd be interested in that tool, and they can add themselves to that and track it. And I think in an ideal world, you would know how to like link this project to previous tasks that are related to it. I've never been able to really do a good job of saying this task is related to these 4 other ones that need to be solved first, but that's basically how Fabricator works. And people can kind of subscribe or unsubscribe or add related tasks or make subtasks, right? So this is, I think a big thing about hacking is this is a big problem that needs to be broken down to 4 smaller problems. And you can actually add smaller subtasks if you want, and other people can see how you're breaking down your problem. Any other hints from folks who are Fabricator veterans? And I am not.
I'm not a Fabricator veteran at all, but if you have a bug, this is also an excellent opportunity to file a bug. If you see if there's something that's been bothering you about Wikimedia projects, something that like maybe it's not a huge thing, but it's like it always annoys you and it's slightly wrong, post about it, make a bug. Maybe people working on it during the hackathon. I have a bug that I've been like going through against for like years. It's the mass message delivery system doesn't work. So if anyone wants to work on that, please, you'll help the New York chapter and all the chapters very much who send out talk page messages.
Yeah, and another tip for Fabricator too is when you look at this remote hackathon column, if you see a project that you're interested in, you don't have to know everything about that project or completely self-educate yourself. You can actually go into the Fabricator ticket. Usually there's related links to help you read about what's going on. And if there's something that's still unclear, you can ask. You can use both, as we discussed earlier, to like update the status of the project, but you can also have discussions, more informal discussions inside each Fabricator ticket. So like, don't be shy to comment away and get involved.
Absolutely. That's right. You may not have the solution for any of these things, but as Richard said, file a bug, or as Rachel said, file a feature request. Like I've seen dozens of people wanting X and no one's ever put it into Fabricator before. And you never know when someone says, oh yeah, I could do that in like 12 hours. And someone will go solve your problem, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
I think another thing to say about Fabricator though, is that if you create a task, if it's a project that you're working on and you finish that project, you should make sure that you close the task out at the end, because we don't want a bunch of kind of a graveyard of old tasks that, are done or nobody's working on or they're not updated. So it's just good to try to keep them up to date and feel a little ownership for the tasks that you personally create.
Right. One of the things that's tough for me to do, maybe I can find out during the hackathon, is how to find a lot of these old tasks that I had filed. Like I don't exactly know how to get to them, but I know that I just noticed like a day or so ago, I'm not sure when it was solved, but this bug, which has been bugging me for like 6 months, has finally been fixed. I need to put it into Fabricator, but this is like a knowledge graph. But now if you click on these things, they expand again. This was missing for like months. Richard, remember we were trying to figure out why this was? So I don't know who solved it, whether it's Leia or someone. Thank you. But I don't know how to mark this as resolved, but it works now. This is awesome. This is Wikidata. So
to find tasks that you have created in the past, it's actually pretty easy. So if you click on your picture up there at the top and go to your own profile, then you can just click on tasks there on the left bar and you can see your tasks.
Nice. But then how about all my subscriptions or my things I'm tracking?
That I can dig around for that.
Yeah. Like I haven't actually created that many, but I have subscribed to a lot, or other people have filed things on my behalf and then subscribed me to them. But I could never really figure out all the ways to get to them. Although, this is nice because it's kind of like a RC, a recent changes list of things related to stuff I've subscribed to. But yeah, just if folks just learn how to use Fabricator more, I know that a lot of times people will just hear people say, oh, put in a Fabricator. And most of the time people are like, not sure what that means, but I'll do it sometime.
Maybe someone in the chat has a better answer than this, but definitely on your profile in Fabricator, you can see all of your own activity. So everything that you've ever done, it comes along in a scroll feed. And
I use that myself because I get lost too. But seeing your own activity helps.
Wait, where do I see my own activity?
That's in the middle. That's the recent activity.
Oh, just this. Yeah, that's recent.
But
yeah.
You also have in the top there a little bell in the left, just behind, close to the logo. That's everything you subscribe to.
Oh, right. There you go.
Oh, how did I not know that? That's not very obvious. To click on the bell. So this is everything I subscribe to, reversed with what has changed most recently?
Yes, most recent in the top.
Cool. I would not have clicked on that otherwise.
There used to be a little number there which said how many you had not read.
Right. Interesting. Okay, well, let's wrap up with a few extra comments here. So Jane said it would be nice to have Sparkle create quick statements for one item so you can edit as needed for a new item of the same form. Yeah, there's some utilities around this, but it'd be nice to have something like that. And yeah, that'd be cool to see. All right, so any last words of wisdom, Rachel? We have to run to another meeting related to the organizing of the hackathon. So any last words of wisdom for folks?
I am just checking our notes really quick here just to make sure that we didn't miss anything. I just want to say that everybody's welcome. Please, make this the event that you need it to be and give us your feedback. And we're really interested to see how it goes. And hopefully all of this effort that all of the facilitators have been putting into this for the last weeks will lead to a more robust virtual event infrastructure for Wikimedia community in the future.
Great. Thanks so much. And again, the most important thing is if you have no idea what to do, just go to the Telegram channel and someone will answer the question or direct you in the right way. At least we have that one point of contact for everyone. Great. So thanks again, Rachel, for coming on. And we'll probably see folks in this format in some way, if not the end of Sunday to do some kind of showcase. Hopefully in other ways, if people are requesting tutorials, we can do tutorials through this interface as part of Wikipedia Weekly, and then they'll be available for others as showing later. So that's kind of nice to do some of those tutorials through this Streamyard tool. They'll be archived for consumption later on, and we can upload some of those to Commons, which Richard has been doing on a very consistent basis. All right, so thanks everyone. See you at the hackathon. Again, you don't have to know how to code or anything. Go and participate in some way. All right, take care.